What a dang good day to hit legs, man. Oh, I love legs sometimes, man. I love them. I hate them, but I love them. Love-hate relationship. All right, starting this leg day with a double leg curl here. I know I've been starting with low back extensions / glute extensions every leg day for a minute now, but they were both taken. So I hopped on the hamstring here, and we're probably going to do this and see if we can't get into a squat pattern and do the lower back extensions later in the workout. As the substitute RDL. Right now, this is 100 pounds right here, which is the most I've done. You know what? We'll pump it up to like 105. All right, so we're gonna try and pause at the top and go slow on it. We're not gonna explode through it right now, just because we're still working through the tendon processes. So we're gonna control every part of the movement here. Okay. All right, that was my second set of doing the 100 pounds, so I'm gonna bump it down and do maybe 1 or 2 sets of single leg. All right, third set, but second set that's being filmed here. I'm gonna do single leg now. It's only 40 pounds, so we're gonna see how this goes for the single leg. One more set of single leg. Final set right here. I'm gonna bump it up to 55 for the single leg. Actually, it's feeling good. So we're gonna see how our weak leg does first before we go too in depth with it. Our weak leg is our left one right here. So let's try it. It's close. It's not bad. It's not bad. It doesn't hurt, you know. I mean, there's like a little uncomfortableness to it, but it doesn't hurt like it used to. So I'll take that all day, man. Shout out Billy Currington if you know what I'm talking about. It don't hurt like it used to. Okay. All right, let's move on. All right, exclusive sneak peek at me doing calves. I'm doing stand calf raises today. I had somebody recently comment on a short of mine where I was doing the one time that I do seated calf raises, the one singular time. Said, oh, helpful tip, do them standing. It's better for the gastrocnemius. So I'm like, yeah, I know. But in the actual video that I posted that the short came from, I said that both the other calf raise machines are taken, so I did those ones. So here's proof that I'm actually doing standard calf raises, and I usually do standard calf raises. All right. First squat pattern in, I don't know, man, fucking 3 months, probably 2 months. So we're gonna see how this goes. I've done a warm-up set, so I think I know where to set my feet comfortably. And then we're just gonna go from there. Okay. All right. I'm gonna do one more set of that. The knees feel foreign to the squat, so that's what I'm feeling the most right now. All right, final set on our squat pattern here. It's still working the quads good. I'm not too worried about that. I think just getting back into the swing of it and trying to get used to a squat pattern again, because it's been a couple months, is the most important part here. Okay, all right. Ooh. I'll do some leg extensions though. Time skip a little bit. I did the hack squats, and then I did the low back / glute extensions, except more glute focused today. Killed it. And then I did 3 sets of abs, believe it or not, ab crunch machine, so I didn't have to use a cable. But now we're on to quad extensions, which is gonna be our last workout of the day. So this is set number 1, probably gonna go for 2 sets here. Whew. All right. One more set. What a dang good day to hit legs, man. Oh, I love legs sometimes, man. I love them. I hate them, but I love them. Love-hate relationship. You know, it was just, I low-key just went to town on it today. I did, oh, hang on a second. Before we pull out this. There we go, all right. You know, look. I got after it today, man. I woke up a smidgen late, or I got out of bed a smidgen later than maybe I wanted to, maybe I intended to, you know. Got to the gym a little bit later than I wanted to, than I intended to, but we still got there. Working, and we still activated the muscle, and hopefully get a tiny bit of muscle growth out of it today. So basically, I did squats today, and I have not done squats in, I don't know, 2 months maybe. It's been a minute since I've done my squats, mainly because I just didn't have confidence in my knee, and I was just doing other exercises throughout the workout that I feel like, you know, weren't like a substitute for squats at all, you know, but I was hitting 3 sets of quad extensions pretty frequently. So that, you know, 3 sets of quad extensions taking a failure, especially, they're hitting the quads enough for me, at least. You know, I was still getting good work on the quads. A squat pattern is not necessary in every single leg workout you do. You know, I can recommend a squat pattern, and that includes like a leg press. That's like a squat pattern, you know. But you know, I was doing the leg extensions and I was fine with it. I just wasn't doing them because the tendon in my hamstring in the back of my knee, you know, was uncomfortable when I was doing squats for a while. So instead of focusing on getting back into squats, I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on increasing the strength in the tendons. A tendon adaptation takes way longer and way tougher than a muscle. So it was a long road to recovery, you know, 2 months before I could do squats or even do this sort of weight on a hamstring curl, you know, because my hamstrings, the muscle on the hamstring was still good. It wasn't the muscle that I was worried about. I was still ripping, you know, I like, if my knee was perfectly healthy, I could still rip max, and I say my knee, if the hamstring tendon in the back of my knee was healthy, you know, I could still rip max leg curls and be good, you know, like not feel like it's gonna tear or anything. My hamstring muscles themselves were fine. It was the tendon itself. So that's why I was taking out squat patterns, because I was focused on something completely different, man. And then today, finally, you know, I felt healthy enough to work back into a squat pattern, and I did. And it actually felt really good. My knees, you know, when I had started doing them, they were getting used to it again, you know? The whole like deep knee flexion sort of thing. Because on a leg extension, it's hard to get the same knee flexion, whereas that's when like the degree of the knee bend, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know how to like if this part right here is your knee, and then let me think about this. Let's just do it like this. So let's see that this knuckle is your knee right here, right? On a leg extension, you're just pushing like this, right? Yep, this is a leg extension. But on a squat pattern, if you're going all the way down, you're bending that thing all the way down, and then you're pushing through, right? So that's the knee flexion, and I haven't had that degree of knee flexion with weight, mind you, in months, you know? So working back into that was the tough part. So that's another thing that I have to work through, is getting the knees comfortable to take heavier loads when I'm in the knee flexion pattern that I would be for a squat. So, other than that, it was a really good leg day. A couple of things I didn't film. I didn't film the low back / glute extension machine, and I was doing it more glute focused today, which takes out the case of an RDL. Recently had somebody comment on a short of mine. I don't know if I talked about it, but you know, they said like a couple tips. Mind you, this was a short that had a low back / glute extension in it already, and the video did say hamstring injury recovery and low back injury recovery. So they commented, you know, a few suggestions, and look, the suggestions that were given were good. They were fine. Let's see if I can block this sun out a little bit. There we go. They were fine. You know, I agree with most of what that person was saying. The issue is, it sounded like there was an assumption that I don't do that on the regular. They weren't taking into consideration why I was doing the workout that I was doing, right? Now, in an ideal world, the main exercises I hit are seated leg curls, leg extensions, a squat pattern, knee extended calf raises, and then some adduction and abduction work, you know, and maybe a little RDL in there depending, right? But the reason that, you know, they had suggested doing a seated leg curl instead of a lying leg curl is that there's more of a stretch on it, and I said I agree with that. But I feel like when you already have a hip hinge movement, like an RDL or like a low back / glute extension machine, you can get away with doing a leg curl because that stretch that you're talking about, you get on the hip hinge. So part of the reason that a leg curl is suggested is because you get more of a stretch on the glutes and the hamstrings because you're in a seated position rather than a lying position. So like, you know how like when you sit down and you bend forward to touch your toes, you know, like that seated position is stretching just by default, stretching the hamstrings a little bit more, especially when you come to the top range of the motion. When you do a hip hinge, if you notice, you're in a similar position, right? As you come down, you hinge at the hip, and you feel that nice stretch in your glutes and hamstrings, right? You hit that with an RDL or a good morning, or a low back / glute extension machine, which I have been doing for a minute, right? So I've been getting the hip hinge in there. And then pairing it with a lying hamstring curl is just fine. You know, especially if you do the lying hamstring curl movement at the beginning of the workout, don't take it to failure, and you the hamstrings and glutes later with a heavier movement, and you just use the hamstring curl machine, like the lying hamstring curl machine, as a warm-up. then you know, you're in a great place. But if you're gonna have a hip hinge, you don't necessarily need to do the seated variation of a leg curl. You don't even need to do that 100% of the time, honestly. If it's taken and you gotta get the hell out of there, you're not gonna be leaving 10 pounds of lean muscle on the table if you just do the lying hamstring curl instead of the seated, you know? And if you don't have a hip hinge movement, if you're not doing an RDL or any sort of deadlift or low back / glute extension machine or a good morning, you're not doing any of that, and you just want to hit seated leg curls, that's perfectly fine too. You don't need to pair it with a hip hinge, especially if you're doing the seated variation, because you are getting that stretch in. But if you do have the hip hinge and a lying leg curl, you're in a great place because you already have one of both in there. The seated is just best of both worlds. You can kind of get both of them in the same exercise right there, especially if you're short on time or you don't feel like hitting a heavy deadlift movement. So shout out to that person. They had decent tips, okay? There was some things that maybe I didn't agree on, but I found that when they commented on the short, they obviously weren't familiar with my content, especially my long form content here on YouTube, because these are things that I say on the regular. Like they were saying, like, take it to failure. Yes, right? They also said do 4 sets if you can do 4 sets. The idea, right, isn't to just do 4 sets because you can do 4 sets. If you are putting in enough work for your 3 sets or your 2 sets that you're doing on an exercise, you don't need to do a 3rd or a 4th. You don't need to keep lowering the weight and then hammering out more reps. Like if, let's say I do 200 pounds for leg extension, right? And I do a maximal set of 7 reps and I take it 1 rep shy of failure or 2 failure. And then my second set, I do the same weight, but only 6 reps. I don't need to lower the weight again and do another 8 or 9 reps with a lower weight. I've already hit the stimulus that I'm getting from that exercise. Sure, if I'm not doing a squat, am I most likely to do 3 sets on like a leg extension? Or if I'm not doing an RDL or a hip hinge, am I likely to hit 3 sets on a seated leg curl? Yes, because I'm not getting another movement that is gonna work those muscles the same way in the workout. So, but I mean, for the most part, if you have 2 ways to hit the quads, you wanna do 2 exercises and you wanna split it up, 2 sets on one, 2 sets on the other, even though they're not gonna hit the quads the same exact way, they're still both hitting the quads. Like a squat and a leg extension, the leg extension hits them in a slightly different way and than the squats. But if you wanted to do just leg extensions, you can just hammer out 3 sets of that, 3 maximal sets of that, and not do a squat pattern, you can. Or if you wanted to do both, do 2 sets on one, 2 sets on the other, you can also do that, right? So, you know, that's just my opinion on that. And also, sometimes people just make assumptions on the content that you put out, which is fine because, you know, that's going to happen. You put out content, people aren't going to really know backstory or history or watch your other content to catch up on what things are. You know, they said I should be aiming for at least 6 reps with a heavy weight on my calf raises. Okay, well, I think I put 10 to 15 in there because one set I did 15, one set I did 10 on the short. I think that's what it was, something like that. Now, if we do the math here, is 10 reps to 15 reps included in the at least 6 reps category? Yes, it is, okay? Now, bypassing that point, right? I said in the actual video, in every time that I do calf raises, I think I mentioned this, I don't go super heavy on them because lately I've been having an Achilles little pinch whenever I do my calf raises in the middle of my set. So I focus on lighter weight so I can work the full range of motion and sort of work the Achilles through it, because the Achilles is a tendon and the adaptations in a tendon are slower than a muscle. Could I do 300 pounds on a calf raise? Yes, I can, believe it or not. Will my Achilles tendon survive it? I have no idea, but it probably won't be comfortable, right? So I focus on the lighter weight and I focus on the with a slower movement to it. I'm not just bouncing the calves, right? So that I can work through and sort of get that Achilles like to where it's feeling comfortable, you know, building up the adaptations in that. And I already left a comment on it, so, you know, this is just a longer form way of getting it out. I think I can get everything out that I wanted to say, whereas I was between sets and I was trying to type it and I was like, man, I just don't feel like typing a paragraph now. So I left it where it was at. But, you know, This is taking most of the drive away from the gym, I guess. But still, other than that, successful leg workout, you know. I did do abs today, so that was nice. I'm sure I'm going to feel that tomorrow, maybe. Pretty cool, or later tonight, you know. Who knows, though? I don't really, I don't do abs in the off season that much. But now that we're coming up on shows this year, you know, we have a planned date. I think it's a decent time to get back into abs, you know. Abs are they're an exercise, that's for sure. I mean, you really don't have to do a bunch for abs, to be quite honest with you. You could do cable crunches. That's maybe the main thing that I do for my abs, is just cable crunches. Or if you guys have an ab crunch machine where you're crunching your top half to your lower half, you know, you're going to be doing the same thing as a cable crunch. I think, you know, 1 or 2 exercises of cable crunches, or of 1 or 2 exercises of abs, is pretty much all you need. The thing about abs is that, you know, they're going to come out when you lose the weight, right? There is a saying, it's like abs are like 90% kitchen or some shit, right? And they are, you know. Abs are one of those things, especially for a lot of people, that show up when they get lower body fat percentage. They lose a lot of other parts of their fat on their body first, and then they get to that stomach to where it starts to chisel out a little bit. That's a similar thing for me as well, I would say. But it's also important that you work your abs, because the abs are a muscle and you can increase the size of your abs. The shape of them, though, nah, you can't do much about that. That's genetic. You know, some people are born with an 8-pack, some people are born with a 6-pack, some people are born like me, where like the abs are like offset like this. You know, they're like they look like this, like not lined up with each other. Which is, you know, it can be aesthetically pleasing if you're low enough body fat percentage. You know, I prefer like a straight on ab look. My abs are not my favorite, but I still get away with it, you know. So this show, man, we're going for the best we can here. We're gonna try and cut down a decent amount and get leaner than we were last show, and not have to do it as fast, you know. Start from a further date out as far as a serious cut goes, and just get lower body fat percentage and ramp it up towards the end, you know. Because the last time I did a bodybuilding show, it was 10 weeks, which was not great. It was 10-week cut, and I was bigger. I had more body fat than I would have liked for a 10-week cut. So, you know, trying to cut through that, I still lost. I went from like 213 to 178 pounds is what I weighed at weigh-ins. So, you know, whatever the math is on that, 35 pounds, no, wait, 213 to 35 pounds. That's insane. Did I actually start at 213? I don't know, I tracked it. I have to look on an app. I tracked it. I don't know what I started at, though, but it was either 203 or 213. I think it was 213, man. I was heavy. But, you know, we're starting at a lower weight this year, and hoping that, you know, we can look real good for showtime. But other than that, I've just been yapping this whole car ride home, so I'm gonna listen to some music now for the rest of the car ride. Get home, drink a protein shake, change some oil, and yeah, call it good. So I appreciate y'all for watching. See y'all next time.